Richard Persing, United States Army, Vietnam. Richard's one of my infamous UH-1 Huey helicopter crew chiefs. Served in Vietnam 1967 to 68 with the 12th Combat Aviation Brigade. It just tells an amazing story from the air, and the combat assaults he went on and all the things he did. And very humbled man, just very emotional man. How can you not be emotional about war? But Richard, I had the honor of also speaking with him at Sturgis High School when I was there. It was Veterans Day in 2013 with Paul Waters and the others you've seen on this channel. And I released a 6-minute video of Paul talking to the students at the school, so I hope you can watch that. It's very, very powerful. But just fond memories of my interview with him, and it was just a great opportunity to learn more about Vietnam. I know a lot of you are learning the different pieces of the stories of Vietnam, Korea, and World War II. And I've just been so blessed to be able to share these with you. And I want to thank all of you who have helped support this YouTube channel. And I hope it continues on. And my radio station's going 24 hours a day. And it's been a blessing to been able to air these stories on my radio station. So if you can't watch a video, it's great to listen to Voices of History Radio. I love Voices of History Radio. It really is great. I know a lot of you do too. So, but I want to a big thank you again for all of you who have helped support my work over the last couple of years. It's been a real blessing, and I pray that God will bless you. So if you haven't subscribed to this channel, I invite you to do so, and share these videos, folks. We're fighting for the same freedoms today in our own country that our veterans fought for on foreign soil. It's very serious right now as we get close to D-Day, what I call D-Day, November 5th, 2024, Election Day, where we're gonna elect good over evil. I'm not naming candidate names, so don't put words in my mouth. Common sense should dictate what's good in this land and what's evil, and which one of the candidates in all 50 states represent good versus evil. And that's what our veterans fought for, folks. And it's sad to me that the very thing that our Vietnam vets and our Korean War veterans fought against is in this country right now, communism. It's been here for a while. So it's rearing its ugly head now. We are to just take the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and say no to it, and just say no. It's our duty to say no. Okay? Thanks for watching and listening seriously, and I hope to talk to you again in another broadcast. Enjoy Richard's story. It's a good one of my best. First question is always the hardest one. This is the tough one. How old are you?
Man, I'm 68. I just had a birthday.
Okay, good for you. I guess that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, it beats the alternative.
Yeah. Tell me what year you went into the military, Dick.
I went in the military in 1966.
How old were you then?
I was approximately 20, 21.
Okay.
Yeah, because I went in September and then I turned 21.
You went into the Army?
Army, United States Army.
Drafted?
No, I enlisted. It was in the blood.
So tell me about high school. That's out of high school? So going through high school, you hear about this thing called Vietnam, or what started going through your head?
Well, I ended up going to Ferris State College in Big Rapids, Michigan, and I didn't know really if I wanted to be a commercial artist or if I didn't. So I took a year, and I was really a little on the confused side, I guess. I thought I wanted to be a commercial artist, but then it just wasn't, I guess, what I wanted to do. So I had an uncle in World War I. I had an uncle or my dad in Korea, in World War II, uncle in Korea, and Vietnam was just my turn. It was in the blood. And even while I was up at Ferris and going through school, we were at the student union there in Ferris, and they had a big roll of paper, and they were writing notes to the soldiers and sailors and airmen and everybody in Vietnam. And it had been cut there, and it was taped up, and for some reason, I said, what happened? You run out of paper? I had to splice it back together, and they said no. Somebody wrote, "Get the hell out." And even then, I was furious. I was furious that somebody would do that. So after I decided that college wasn't quite what I wanted, I decided I wanted to fly. And I've always loved aviation. I've dealt model airplanes, loved to go flying anytime I could. And so I went with a buddy, Alan Binkley, and we went in the buddy system and we went to crew chief school. He took a different path to Vietnam than I did, and Alan is now deceased, and went to Fort Eustis, or Fort Useless, Virginia, as we called it. And I went to my crew chief school and stuff after basic and AIT and so forth. So, and then we went to Fort Hood, and I volunteered for Vietnam. They came around, wanted to know if we wanted to go to Vietnam, and I volunteered for it, not quite knowing what I was going to get into. They train you, they do everything they can humanly do possible to get you ready for that stuff, for combat. But when the tracers are going both directions, it changes everything. So I have a unique distinction of setting foot on Vietnam soil on my birthday, 1967, October 25th. I was 22 and soon found out I might not make 23. But the first few months were not bad. I had kind of a little artistic talent, so I got to paint nose art on the ships. Kept me from getting shot at for a while. So I did the nose art, and then I drew the distinction of being General Fred C. Wyann's crew chief, which meant when we flew, usually I had a chase ship in case something happens, which it did a couple times. And so I wasn't flying combat every day. That changed later when General Wyann left in July of '68. I really enjoyed the duty. It got a little exciting at times, but the flying was something I loved, and I felt that was my, believe it or not, I guess it was my comfort zone. It's where I needed to be. And although times it wasn't too comforting, but the night that really everything changed was the night of the Tet Offensive late in January '68. We had some little things going on before that in Long Binh, but that night basically the whole country blew up, and a lot of the public perception of the war changed. But that night will just kind of forever changed me because of we lost some people, and like I tell my grandkids, it was close to being a name on the wall that night. And then later, it was just continuous. I mean, you got so jumpy, and things took on a whole different meaning, everything. Somebody slamming a door too hard, or things that you didn't pay attention to at first when you got in country, then everything changed. Everything changed, and then I knew I was in a war. But some of the guys, I remember going to the bunker that night and getting in there and sitting on the cot, and I thought, Jesus, what's the matter with this cot? It's awful wet and damp. And one of the guys had really got tore up bad, a couple of them, and they were sitting on there, and it was just blood all over the place. And then I went out. We had to go outside and guard the perimeter because we thought we were getting overrun and stuff. And you go back and you never see the guys again. They're gone. They're gone from your life. And it's a constant year of that, you know. And as much as it affected me, I've seen so many others that are absolutely a disaster because of that. And some of the stories, I feel like I missed the war. I didn't miss it, but so I feel blessed in that regard. But the other night I had another nightmare. Was out flying, I lived through it. We had an engine failure once. That was exciting. Had to go back home, and of course look for bullet holes every time you're doing a pre-flight for the next day and stuff, and get things patched up. But it was just continuous. And I guess it's amazing what 1 year in your life in combat can do to you for the rest of your life. I'm just, yeah, I have some really bad days, but, you know, I see people up at the VAs that are so far gone. I don't know if some of them will ever come back. And I just feel so thankful that I'm here, but I miss some people terribly. I lost probably right after we got in country one of the finest people I'll ever know in my life, and that has haunted me for years and years and years. And his ship went down. It was an accident, and that even made it worse. It got so bad, and I had a career in alcohol too for 18 years, and Vietnam was really coming out, particularly at the end of my alcohol career, and it was really, really ugly. And I had been sober a few years, and a lot of Vietnam issues that I wasn't aware that, or even cared, I guess, that I could get help from the VA and stuff. Well, this stuff was kind of consuming me, and I was thinking about Sergeant Figueroa. I just couldn't get him out of my mind. It was really, really deep inside. And I was sitting in my living room one night and watching TV, and all of a sudden, his face was on my television screen. It was as though somebody had taken a poster of him and set it right on my screen. And of course, when that happened, I thought I was going nuts. And he was smiling at me. And I ran across a person a few days later that gave me the answer, at least what I think is the answer. And he was an angel. He made we weren't together all that long, but he made a profound impact in my life. And lady said, "You know what that was? That was a message from God that he's okay, don't worry about him." And I said, "Yeah, because if he didn't make the cut to heaven, then I'm going out and really raise some hell today." But he just is always in my thoughts and prayers and stuff, and I'd really like to run across his family. Some of it is a little hard, though. You want to do some things like that, but yet there's part of you that doesn't want to deal with it because it's going to be so emotional. And I try and fight that sometimes, but it's overwhelming some days. I've had a number of flashbacks. The worst one I ever had was a few years back when I took my grandson, Noah. I wanted to take him and put him in the position back on the right side behind the gun mount where I flew every day. And I put him back there, and by the time I got to the chopper, I was a wreck because I smelled the exhaust, which I hadn't smelled in 40-some years. Boom, I was starting to go. So we got up, and I put him in there and sat with him, and we took off and hovered around and took off north of our airport. And I looked up through the rotor blades, and I was back. And then we went out and banked, and then we came back and banked on the right and the left and banked on my side, and I looked down at the trees, and it was the jungle again. Plain and simple. And when we got to the ground, I went to the ground. But I think it was something I had to do. I had to get rid of some of that stuff. And I just started sobbing because of all the people that can't do that. Didn't get a chance to sit with a grandson like I did. And that still bothers me. Yeah. But I figured out one thing. War is not fair. Doesn't care if you're good, bad, if you're in your 30s, if you're in your teens. Doesn't care. It just doesn't care. And that's part of it you've got to live with. But I'm sober today. I've got a good family. My wife left me a nice note since today is Veterans Day, and that meant a lot to me. I put her through some hell. And that's another part of it too. Those of us that have a good spouse, you just can't even, I don't even know if you can put a price on that or anything. I don't know. I mean, you've got to have somebody to rely on. And your family, although they don't understand completely, they're there for you. That's what matters. Somebody just be there for me. And I don't know how I'm going to handle it when I see my grandson today and he's going to write me a letter. I pretty much know where that's going to go, how I'm going to feel, but maybe I've left an impression on somebody. And I like sharing with him and telling him what was what. But it was a year of hell, but I really admire. I had a nice hooch to go back to, a nice place to be, so to speak, when we weren't getting mortared and rocketed. But the grunts that have told me stories that they were out in the boondie, out beating the bush, and C-123s were flying over them and dropping Agent Orange on them. I admire those guys a lot. They kind of liked us too. But I didn't have to do too much of that. I wasn't, in a combat group per se. We were in the 12th Combat Group, 12th Combat Aviation Group. But I didn't have to do that every day, like some of them.
So were you manning an M60 machine gun, or what were you firing?
M60 machine gun, yep.
So would you ever go on a search and destroy or assault, air assaults?
Yeah. We used to go, we got another old man in, a general. We used to go out and search, find sampans, and we go out in free fire zones looking for people to shoot. And if they were in a free fire zone, I mean, and I turned my emotions that these people were like rabid dogs. That's the only way I could do my job and do what I had to do. They were less than human, and that was our job. Yeah, we go out and look for sampans, free fire zones, and shoot up what we could. So, like I said, I didn't do that every day like some assault companies and stuff, but we got into it. And like I say, when the tracers are going both directions, sure gets your attention. But I had good pilots. I connected with a pilot of mine about 2 years ago. I looked for him for 40-some years. I finally found him. Oh my God. He said some things to me that he said I never got time to tell you. That he appreciated the way I kept the ship. We were always ready to fly. All the nuts and bolts were tight and torqued down, I guess. Obviously, we're here. But that really, really meant a lot to me because I told him the same thing. I could have laid back there and taken a nap because I knew I was okay with you up front on the stick. And it was really nice to hear from somebody, and he's a heck of a guy. Randy McDonough's his name, and he's a special friendship with him because it's the only pilot I've connected with that I was with. I have a couple other pilot friends that we just have an immediate bond because he was a pilot and I was a crew chief, and but Randy was special. And I'm so glad that him and I have forged a new relationship, one a little late, but nonetheless, it's very important. But to see the things and do the things that you had to do, I mean, it kind of weighs on you 40-some years later. I have some bad days because of that once in a while, but and the nightmare the other night, I try and wonder sometime what triggers things. Sometimes I know what triggers it, sometimes I don't. You don't see it coming. A flashback or something doesn't say, hey, here I come, Richard, hang on. No, you don't get an email or a phone call or something. All of a sudden you're just acting weird and nobody can figure it out. But the guys I go up and talk with and stuff in my group, I mean, they know. And today, I want to honor some people, particularly my dad and father-in-law who were World War II. And I think about that too. Look what a year in Vietnam did to some of us. My dad was Navy in World War II, 5 years. Oh my gosh, kamikaze attacks and this and that. Came home, picked up, and got on with their life. Raised kids that got to go to their war. You know, so I guess some things never change, but...
Is your dad still alive?
No. I really wish that I would have been able to go on the honor flights with him and my father-in-law. It would have been a real honor. But it was an honor going with the guys I went with. I was so proud to be part of that and give some stuff back with my photography hobby and stuff too. That was very important to me. Very important. It's things that get stuck in here that some don't get. Some don't understand, I guess. But thank God they're not treating the returning veterans like we got treated. Oh man. Can't ever let that happen again. Just can't.
So you're there for one tour. One tour. You're going through your tour. Do you start counting down the days after a while? Or I mean,
yeah.
You first get in country, you're like a new person and what have you, and you count it down. Tell me what you remember about your last day in Vietnam.
I was nervous because you've heard stories of people waiting at the airport in Bien Hoa, Saigon, getting mortared, and some of them didn't make it. The last 30 days were terribly nerve-wracking, terribly. Because when you get to your short timers calendar and start marking off the last few days, I was so anxious to go home, but yet I was really feeling bad to leave some of the guys behind, some of the guys I'd been with. Most of the guys I went with, we were going as a group. We were going home at the same time, so that made the transition a little easier. If I'd had to leave them in the middle, I don't know if I could have done that, because you really bond. I mean, you're brothers. And I've still got a relationship with some of the guys, 45 years later. I'm still getting phone calls from them. We're still sending photos, and when you lose one, it's terrible. But leaving Vietnam was kind of there was all kinds of emotions going on. You were leaving some of your new buddies and some buddies that extended, and they went to different companies and stuff. Some extended to get a 6-month early out, and had a couple of those stop and see me because I was at Fort Riley, Kansas. I went back there, and they stopped on their way back home. So that meant a lot to me too.
Did you get home and get out of the military?
Yeah, when I got out in '69, when I got home from Vietnam, I went to Fort Riley for about 9 months. And of course, they were playing soldiers and stuff, and going out and training guys for combat and everything else. And I tried to get out of that as much as I could. I had done my soldier time, I thought, but when I got back, there wasn't any fanfare or nothing. My parents were glad to see me, and I guess a lot of us just put everything in here. We didn't want to. We just got on with things and pushed everything down deep inside. Stuff we should have got rid of early, but later it started coming out. But I guess it was good being there for 9 months, although I wanted to just be done with it. But it wasn't too bad. I was married, and we went and lived off post and everything until September '69 when I got out. But everything was, everything was just, you tried to forget it. As I just kind of put it up in the attic, just put it up in the attic. I've got to get on with my life. I went to work for the phone company, and a few of my buddies stayed in aviation, and we all kept in contact and stuff. And like I say, we still do to this day, the ones that are still here. And but it's amazing. You want to get away from all of it. But then a few years later, everything comes out of that headache and falls on top of you, and you don't know what's going on. You think you're losing your mind and everything else, and of course I know now that I wasn't alone in that part of my life. But a lot of us drank, drugs, divorces, and we were just a mixed up bunch. Yeah. Now we're just a messed up bunch of old gray panthers, I guess, they tell the guys, but we're getting better, and a lot of us, I would go do it again. I didn't exactly like the way things ended, but I'd do it again in a minute, because it made me who I am, what I am, and my friendships. I wouldn't trade that for anything. But it was hell at times. It was hell. And, you know, you don't know if you're going to be alive the next 5 minutes. You really don't. And I'm going out today. Hope to see you guys later. You know, maybe I will. But I just always tried to be real upbeat and go out and knew I was going to come back, or at least hoping so. But some of them didn't. And that was, but you know, you can't stop and really think about a lot of that stuff right then, because you got to do your job. But later, when you get home and time to think, you think about it a lot. Consumes your thoughts, consumes your days, and I consumed a lot of alcohol. But I can't blame it all on that. But it was at times pretty ugly. But I was in with a good group. I just love those guys, and some of the things you had to do, you can't believe. One of my buddy Mac, he was just so torn up. Perry McCullough, he passed away 2 years ago, right after Veterans Day, and he said, never again will I pick up a weapon and do another man's bidding for him. And he was just adamant about that. But he was my buddy, and we watched each other's back. All the guys did. They're a good group.
Is today a special day for you, Dick?
Today being Veterans Day, yeah. It's for me, it's about friends and family. My family, I'm going to go out to dinner with my wife, and I'm going to see all my grandkids today. And usually my sons, I've got 3 sons, they call me on Veterans Day, and because they know how much it means to me, and they call me, and that does mean a lot to me. And my buddies, we've talked, and usually, for some reason this year I didn't do it, but I get on my computer and I make everybody a Veterans Day card and send it out. This year I didn't do that. I don't know. I'm not sure what that was. But I did call them and stuff, and call some of the guys. But I like making cards and sending them out to everybody, because everybody has a story. And like I said, some of the stories, thought I missed a whole dang war. I did not. But it came so close to being a name on that wall a number of times. And my friend Ed today, I talked to him. He said, yeah, I was laying in the jungle. We were going through a mortar attack, and a mortar landed 5 feet from me and didn't go off. Kind of like the rocket we had that went next to the hooch and didn't go off. So, well, I guess there's a reason for that.
Have you been to the Vietnam Wall in Washington with the honor flights and all that?
Yes.
Do you remember the first time you went there?
Yeah.
Was that a hard time?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was like meltdown city. I mean, it's just, and I looked and I saw some other people that were way in the background. I knew they had to be Vietnam vets. They couldn't approach it. And I knew I had to. I had to get rid of this. I had to go up there, and it's like a wailing wall. It's a wailing wall for a lot of us, because it's so personal. I mean, the names says it all. I mean, I know they had a lot of controversy when the thing was first built, but it was the most visited memorial in Washington for a long, long time. Maybe it still is. But when you can go up there and touch somebody's name, and somebody you were with and knew, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. 58,000 names. It's just, and a lot of times music too will send me into a tailspin. It's weird, but the one song that really, really is Vietnam to me is Love is Blue by Paul Marriott. I mean, I don't know, that was popular then, and and of course we've got to get out of this place with Eric Burton and the Animals. That's kind of the theme song of every Vietnam veteran. And I'm just so proud to have served my country. It's one of the most important things I guess I've ever done in my life. Because I was with some great, great people. Wish they were here now. Doesn't work like that. I got that figured out, but the tears still come. And I'm so thankful the good Lord decided to keep me around for a while. And I think it's very important to me for the young people to know that iPad, where that iPad and iPhone and computer came from, somebody had to fight and die for you to have the right to do what you do and can do and don't have to ask anybody's permission. So, God bless this place.
Yeah, that was good. We need to share that at the schools tomorrow. That was what you just said. It's so true. The importance of these messages, and I had one 13-year-old in Colorado last year after a program like we're going to do tomorrow tell me with tears coming down his face. He said that war's not they said they try to make this a video game. He says war's not a video game. He says when you kill somebody it changes you. This kid's 13.
Gee.
He got it. He got
Wow.
the message. Yeah, it's not a video game. Hollywood, I compete with Hollywood. The whole Hollywood image of war, whatever, but...
Yeah, I've been part of that. I was real close to one of those movies. I think it was called A Bright Shining Lie. Bill Paxton was in it.
Oh, I don't know if I know that.
And they had General Wyand down during Tet Offensive. This was a Tet Offensive. They had General Wyand down in Saigon directing fire and this and that. Well, that didn't happen. We didn't fly a whole lot during Tet. General Wyand was in the command bunker and other people were coming in there. General Ware was down there because my buddy Mac that has passed away was his crew chief, and they went down there and he was directing stuff. But Hollywood had General Wyand down there. It wasn't quite the case. I wish I'd have known that they were doing that movie beforehand, because I think they kind of got that wrong. And I thought, oh my God.
Yeah, I'm sure they got it wrong.
But you're right, if you have to deal with those people, I mean, they don't get it. They don't get it. And the draft dodgers and stuff, oh boy, don't get me going on that.
No, we're not going to go on that, but you kind of touched on just a little bit of this. I'm going to ask you this question. I ask all veterans, but tell me what the American flag means and represents to you as a veteran.
Boy, what does the flag... After I lost my buddy Mac, the flag took on a whole different meaning. And it always has, but it's gotten more important to me. It's freedom, sacrifice. The red in there is just blood to me some days, because a lot of people have spilled blood for this place. Freedom, it makes me proud. I'm proud of that flag. If I see somebody, even on TV, that's, some of the countries and wherever, or protesters here burning our flag, I mean, I've almost lost a television or two because of that. But it's sacred to me. It's sacred. It means freedom. It means that's part of me. That's part of me. And of course, it's part of the guys. Boy, that is a good question. That is a good question. I mean, it's freedom, sacrifice, the glory of living in this country. The people that have died for that flag. I think of my dad once in a while. But my buddies that I was in Nam with, I mean, it's not a piece of cloth. I had somebody tell me that once. It's just a piece of cloth. Well, I was brought up during a very patriotic time, late 40s, the 50s, and going to school and stuff, Pledge of Allegiance and everything else. And the flag has just always been sacred to me. But after Vietnam and looking at it now, I mean, it's more than that. It's the people that died for that flag and the how proud you feel. And but after I lost my buddy Mac, the first few ball games and stuff I went to, I was a wreck because he meant so much to me. And the Agent Orange finally got to him, and he's not here now. I don't get any phone calls Sunday evening. And he would rattle on and get into almost a rage and stuff. Just say a few words, and he was going with it. And one of the guys we were talking yesterday, and he said, "Well, you better say what Mac used to say." He'd always say, "Oh, well, that's enough of that," and then go on to something else. But all the people that have given their lives for that flag, it's a symbol of the greatest country in the world. It's a symbol of the people that fought for this, and we're the greatest group in the world.
Tell me, you mentioned freedom. Tell me what freedom means to you and the price for freedom.
Oh, boy, these are some good ones you got here. They're simple, but they're not simple. I mean, it's after looking at the world situation now and stuff, I mean, I think freedom is even more pointed out to us in this country. I mean, what the guys have gone through in Iraq and Afghanistan, I mean, with what their people have gone through, I can get in my car and drive anywhere I want to. I can go do anything I want to. I can talk to somebody. I mean, it's, but I remember in the back of my head after spending a year in Vietnam that this didn't come free. And when you see those signs that said freedom isn't free, it really isn't. It's, there's a lot to it. A lot of people have died for this. And seeing other countries, like I said, and other people, I mean, man, oh man, the regimes and the stuff they have to go through, I could see why so many of them come here. You can do what you want, you can be what you want. You don't have to go through some of that stuff. It's, after that year in Vietnam, I thought, oh my God, this communist regime that wants to come down here and take over is, and I had a few of the Vietnamese tell me that, said, you can't imagine what it's like. And I'm sure they're right, I couldn't imagine, because I've grown up in a free society, greatest country in the world. I can do what I want, be what I want. And there's a lot of heroes. There's a lot of heroes walking up and down the street that aren't waving the flag and doing this. They're everyday Joes that did something spectacular when they had to. And I'm proud to know some of them. I know some World War II guys that, wow, you did what? Oh my gosh. And it's an honor. I met one a while back. It was a Doolittle Raider. Richard Cole was his name. There's only 4 of them left. And that was this summer. Maybe there's not even 4 left now. And what a hero. Would I want to stand next to some Hollywood movie star? No. Do I want to stand next to him? Yeah. He went off that. He was on ship number 1. He was Jimmy Doolittle's co-pilot. What a hero. And he turned around and thanked me for my service. Coming from somebody like that. He was a Doolittle Raider. Wow. What history. He made it so I can sit here and do whatever I want today. So you can sit here. So any of us. What a bunch of heroes. I'm so glad that that's just in here, and I remember that once in a while. I don't consider myself a hero, but some of those guys they were wonderful. They're magnificent. They gave a lot more than a lot.
Yeah. I understand how you're saying that. I appreciate all you guys, but we're almost done, but when you were in combat, around combat, do you ever feel invincible, like nothing could happen to you? As a young man, sometimes you feel like you're bulletproof and all that.
Oh, yeah.
When does it dawn on you that you're not?
When I was first in country, seemed like I was going to be, you know, a savior of the war, the savior of Vietnam. We're going to get in here and clean this mess up. And then, like I said, when the tracers started going each way, and then you're bringing wounded people back and stuff, it hits you that, you know, death is all around you. That maybe I'm not as invincible as, but yeah, I think that comes with youth. You think that we can go do that, let's go. And boy, you get back and think, holy mackerel, I almost got blasted. But yeah, I had that feeling of being invincible. But then when the reality comes that you see blood and you see body parts for the first time, you realize this is the real deal. It kind of knocked that out of me a little bit. I got a little more apprehensive with every flight.
Did you do medevacs, dust-offs, or what have you? At times you have to take the wounded out?
Not so much. No, we took a couple out, but we didn't use my ship for that a whole lot, like some of the guys. My friend Larry is traumatized with the smell of blood because he did that a lot. I've seen what effect it's had on some of the other guys that were around that more than I was. And if he smells blood, a lot of times they have to, up at the VA, they have to get the smelling salts out and stuff for him because he might go out. That stayed with him for 40-some years. And that's pretty powerful. And he got into a lot more tough situations than I did, but I know some of the things that he got into. I mean, that's why him and I have a good rapport, I guess. But he's a real good guy. But listen to some of his stories too, I think, oh wow. But that was continuous. But he flew a lot of the wounded out and went in probably when they shouldn't have. You know, they didn't think they were going to make it out alive. But yeah, we carried some of them out of the field and stuff. But I remember one time we went up around Cambodia, and there had been an accident. There was one dust-off that came in, and it was a dry season. They came in and churned up the rotor wash and dust, and another chopper went in and sat on top of them. And I think 8 or so were killed that day, and we got there just after it happened. And they had bodies out there laying in the sun, and there was a whole bunch of body bags, and they were all Americans. And we were downwind from that, and I'll never forget that. If they'd been VC, I wouldn't have thought so much about it, but they were GIs, and I was downwind, and oh my God, the death smell, it just, to this day, I think of that. I mean, there were bags, and of course I used to pick things off dead VC and stuff like that, and you just had to be immune to some of that. But then later in life it hits you. What did I do? Why did I do that? But it's just a self-defense mechanism, I guess. It's what they keep telling us and stuff. But the smell and the sights and the sounds were, you know, they're with you forever. Okay.
I hear you. Is there anything I haven't asked you that maybe thinking about this interview today you were going to share with me? Because you've done a real good job. I know you could share a million stories, but I mean, do you feel like you've said what you wanted to say today?
I think pretty much.
What would you say to a Vietnam vet who might watch this? Just look into the camera. What would you say to somebody out there that might watch this someday?
The first thing I'd say to them is welcome home, because that's something we didn't hear very much. And another thing I'd say is don't let some of this stuff consume you. Get it out. Tell your family, a grandchild, a friend, another vet. You know, open up if you can. Don't let it consume you, and don't let it grab a hold of you and never ever let go. Let some of it out. Do yourself a favor. You may not think so. And yes, it dredges things up, but I felt lighter when I started getting some of that stuff out of my system. And welcome home, and you aren't going nuts, because there's a whole bunch of us gray hairs that have had the exact same experiences. So Thanks for what you did.
Could you do one more thing for me? At the end of all of my interviews with the World War II vets, the Korean War veterans, and the Vietnam vets, I asked them to just give a salute into the camera when you have a. Could you do that for me? From where you're seated, whenever you want. If you want to say something, you can, but just look right in there and
Like a hand salute?
yeah, just.
I can do that.
It's kind of like your send off. If you want to say something before you salute, that's fine.
I'd just like to thank everyone that's ever donned a uniform, and even those, particularly those sometimes I think that don't get enough recognition, the women, and those of you that haven't been shot at and have been in combat. You deserve our thanks too. It's not just those of us. I think sometimes they make too much of us that have been in combat and stuff. But you people that served your country, you deserve our salute as much as anybody. You were ready to go and ready to do what was asked of you. And I thank you, and I salute all of you. God bless this great country of ours. And I think too, sometimes they do. They just make a little too much of us that have been shot at.
Today's a special day for me, boy. Greg, we're gonna come and take a picture with you, okay? So just stay right where you're at. We're gonna come over there and join you. Yeah, the camera's stand here.
Boy, I don't know about seeing my grandson.
Well, I think you got an amazing family there, you know.
I'm gonna go to pieces, I know I am, but
You're always pretty high on the totem pole.
yeah. You remember what he said at the funeral? Oh my gosh, I was just thinking about that today.
What funeral was that?
My mom's funeral in March. Oh my gosh, I didn't have any idea he was going to get up and talk like that.
He's quite the little dude.
Can you guys see yourselves there?
Yeah, I bet you can see the red lights on. I guess we're getting video.
Well, I don't always do this, but I did this with our last interview. But I just want to thank you for your service on camera on Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day, Dick, and for your service in Vietnam. And I think you represent a lot of voices out there. And we're gonna take this message to the younger generations. And that's my goal now as I continue to document stories. And
Thanks for what you do.
I appreciate that.
It's very important to some of us.
That means a lot to me to hear you say that. And Greg, we want to thank you
Greg.
again too.
Thank you, Dick.
I'm glad you asked me.
Absolutely.
I'm glad I got rid of a little more baggage, and I think it's very important too, like you say, to let the younger generation know, and a lot of them get it, but most don't.
Yeah.
You're going to run across one. A lot of them, I suppose, get it because of grandparents or aunts, uncles, brothers, but not all of them get it. That's for sure. They don't even have a clue.
That's right. It's important.
But this is a great vehicle to
Well, I've
change that.
been serving my country through the lens of that camera.
And that's important. I told a few of the doctors up there too that weren't military up at the VA, especially Dr. Beth Dietzel. I told her that, yeah, you went around and shook everybody's hand last meeting and wished them Happy Veterans Day. And I said, this is for you too, Beth.
Awesome.
You're serving your country too.